Hi everyone, welcome back to the Art of Scumming. Thank you for tuning in. And today we're talking about the state of Nurgle, specifically when it comes to Kugath, because Tamarkon is super powerful, and I don't know why anybody would really want to play as Epidemius anyway. So when playing as Kugath Plaguefather, my strongest strat for him was to occupy the Chaos Wastes. And you might say, man, this is a Khorne campaign. Why are you starting with this? Well, the space that I advocated that Kugath should take for his migration is right here. So you basically came up the sea lane, and then you immediately took these territories from the Skaven faction that was located here. And it was very easy to do, and you could establish an empire in the Chaos Wastes rather rapidly. Well, given now that this territory is initially occupied by ogres and then immediately by Arbal the Undefeated, going up against Arbal the Undefeated, a Khorne legendary lord that is one of the strongest in the game, with a pile of Nurglings is just not going to happen. So this is no longer an option. So now we're going to revise that strat, and I'm going to show you what I've got for you when it comes to Kugath Plaguefather. Now down in the Dragon Isles where Kugath starts, and really there are two elements, or two groups of elements when it comes to this strategy. There are the time-sensitive elements and the non-time-sensitive elements. So I'm going to start with the non-time-sensitive elements. As you can see, we've consolidated a fair amount of territory down here in the Dragon Isles, and this is all the territory that we are going to take here pretty much until later in the campaign, much later in the campaign. We are happy sitting here and using this as our base of operations to get everywhere else. And so what we ideally have is this situation here, but you don't have to have all of this. So your first province, 4 settlements, and you'll notice each of these has a port in it that is worth a ton of money and some infections for Kugath. So you want to make sure that you take as many of the port settlements as possible. This is a logical progression here. It also has a landmark that is important to Nurgle that generates some income. So that is a logical progression. Progression when we take out Gorst. And then this one is good because not only does it have a port in it, but it also has this resource that is exceptionally valuable, fully upgraded 450 for Nurgle. And then this one over here has a landmark in it right there. And this one up here also has a, hang on, not Fortress of Orag, excuse me. This one here has another landmark that's worth some money and some global impacts on your faction. And it also has, you guessed it, a port. So this is the ideal territory consolidation. You'll notice that it did not include this 4 settlement province right here. You want to use this as a bargaining chip to sell to mostly the Chaos Dwarves, but also some of it to the ogres to keep them from declaring war on you. And what you're going to do is take this territory, and again, non-time sensitive, ideally this much, but you can do with less. This is just your base. And you're going to do that in such a way to keep Cathay off of you, the ogres off of you, and the Chaos Dwarfs off of you. So you're going to use the Chaos Dwarfs and the ogres as borders to your lands, and then basically over here you just have the Skaven. Now, if you wanted to reduce your footprint and keep yourself from like really running into the dwarves, you would probably not take this province either and sell this to the Chaos Dwarfs, but you get what I'm saying. And then from here, our strategy is to confederate ourselves into the Chaos Wastes, and you do that with the time-sensitive elements that start from turn 1. The very first thing that you do is build this building, and that gives you access to this cultist, And then as soon as that cultist is available, you're going to recruit him here. Simultaneously, somewhere as soon as possible, you're going to get a plague cultist. And you're going to send both of those cultists, when they're available, up this channel into the sea lane. The sea lane is then going to open you up here. You're going to send the primary cultist, the one that you recruited, to go meet Epidemius. You're going to send the secondary, the plague cultist, up to meet Tamarcon. And the reason that you're doing it that way is because there is more room to traverse to Epidemius, and the primary cultist actually has more campaign movement range than the plague cultist. And because of that, if you do it the other way around, Epidemius might very well be eliminated by the time you get there. So this is very time sensitive. So we're going to come up here and we're going to meet Epidemius. Now, in this campaign, we have an ideal situation where both of those factions are doing pretty good all the way into turn 34. Some of the other playtesting that I've done has had either or of those factions eliminated by like turn 15. So you got to get up there and you got to get up there fast. And the purpose of doing that is having eyes on these factions so that when they do finally get smashed, you can confederate them. And you get that confederation by acquiring these ancillaries. And every character that you recruit should have one of these ancillaries as soon as you can get it. So I have 2 that I need to place here. And you can see by turn 30 whatever, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of those. And my public education math says 15 times 7 is 105 relations, which brings us up pretty close to a confederation with those as soon as they get smashed, because currently they're doing pretty well. 93 and 57. But as soon as they lose a major battle, there's our opportunity. Now, as a failsafe, when it comes to confederating one or both of these, is you want to set up a cult here. And you can see next turn I'm planning to jump up here because I've accomplished my mission down here in the Dragon Isles. I've got my base set up. Kugath is going to jump up here, and while Malice is sort of missing, he's going to take his capital. So he's going to take the Black Rock and then start destroying that territory. And now I have forced myself into the region. I can now do my expansions and not even really build this section up right now. I can really use it as a sack territory, because one of the things that a lot of people miss when it comes to playing as Kugath is he is a sack faction. He makes a ton of money from sacking settlements, and you should use that to get as much money as you need to build up your other settlements, because his background income is actually pretty decent as well, provided that you took all the stuff that I showed you taking. Now, the only word of caution that I will put here is you should send that one cultist up here, start the cult here, and then you should turn that cultist right back around and send him over to Tamarcon's region, because there is a chance, and I've seen it about 75% of the time, Tamarcon easily wins, and then the 25% of the time, approximately, he gets smashed up pretty bad by Kolek Suneater. And if that's the case, then you might have to choose between confederating Tamarcon or confederating Epidemius, because you got to look at Epidemius' situation. He almost always ends up at war with Daniel, almost always ends up at war with Malice, and then across the way we've got Norskins that he usually ends up going to war with Throg, and almost always ends up at war with Malachi. So basically, Epidemius is doomed. Tamarcon might not be doomed, but you won't know that if you don't get there and start getting there at turn 1.